In this tutorial, we are going to be covering something called tab control in FileMaker. Tab control is a great tool for grouping up data and keeping your layout clean and organized. And in this tutorial, we will be covering two things. First, how to create tab control and tweaking some of its basic settings. And second, we are going to use a combination of calculation functions such as if, is empty, and text color to create a dynamic notification system in the tab. Coming up. Hey, welcome to another FileMaker beginner tutorial. This channel, it's all about creating FileMaker beginner tutorials so that you can start using this powerful software and automate your work. Now, today's topic is about tab control. So, what exactly is tab control? If we look into this exercise file here, this is the after one, so it's the one that's completed. So if you follow along and complete the tutorial, this is what we will have. It's a very nice tab feature that we can store different fields within it. And when we click onto it, then different fields will appear. This feature is very powerful in FileMaker because first of all, it allows you to group up similar objects together, and you can save a lot more space in the interface so that the user feel more clean and feel more organized, and your system will be much more easier to understand. We're going to learn some basic controls in how to set up this tab page, as well as some common settings that you might be doing with it. And then on the second part of this tutorial, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into using calculations. And what we would do is that we will create some sort of a detection that detects when no fields are selected. It will show up a warning on top of the tab page. So for example, if I remove the mobile number from the contact phone, it gives me a warning. And when I type it back in, the warning disappears. So it allows you to create a very dashboard-like warning system so that even if you're hiding things under the tab page, you can still be aware of all the possible things that you need to be aware of in a glance. So without further ado, let's get to the exercise file. So here is the original file that you will have when you download the exercise file, the before one. And it's a very simple, I would say a contact database like. And in here we have a place that can save first name, last name, remark, and some basic information. And also we have a place to store interests of that particular person. So for example, if you like food, if you like travel, if you like sport, then we can take these and record these informations. And we also have a mobile number, work number, and home number. So the first thing I want to cover is how to create a tab control. So to create a tab control, we go to View, Layout Mode, and then we are going to first drag away these items first so it doesn't obstruct our work. Drag this away from the layout. So after I move away the fields, the next thing I want to do is that I want to click onto here and choose tab control. And then I would drag open the space to hold the tab that I want. So like this. And when you complete dragging it, there will be a tab control setup window being shown. And this is where you set up the majority of the tab related things. So our first goal here is to create two different tabs, one called interest and one called phone. So I'm going to type in interest here and I press create. That's how I create the first tab. And secondly, I'm going to type in phone and then click create again. And when I click OK now, you will notice in here that we have a very simple two tab interface being created. So the next thing I want to do is to drag the relevant information inside the tab page. So if I drag the interest information, drag it on here, and I'm going to also click onto the phone and then drag the phone information here. And right now the phone numbers fields are not aligned perfectly, so I'm going to go to the inspector. You can open the inspector panel by clicking View, Inspector, and go to the first tab of the inspector and go to Alignment. Click this icon, then it will align everything to the middle. And the next step, I want to walk you through a little bit of how you can manipulate this tab thing here. So if you double click onto the tab, there are a few options on the right here. For example, I can choose the tab justification. If I choose this to right side and click OK, then everything pushed to the right side. If I double click again, choose center, then it will stay in the center here. And you can also create, you can also make the width setting of the tab here. So instead of the width being dependent on the text length, we can make it so that it's a fixed width, and maybe let's say 150 points. Click OK, then they will stay at 150 point no matter what. But usually what I do is that I just choose tab justification, do full, and then click OK, so that it just fills up the whole thing no matter how many tabs you have. So if you have 3 or more tabs, then it just automatically distribute them evenly. And then the next thing I want to make a change on, it's the tab color here. So if we look at the layout right now, this black doesn't feel right for the whole thing. So I want to maybe change this to another color. So if I'm not clicking onto the tab, I want it to show maybe a brown color like the top here, to make the overall theme a little bit more consistent. But how do I change individual tabs? So I can change it by clicking onto the tab page, and there will be a rectangle, a black color rectangle being appeared, and that's indicate to you that you have selected this particular tab. And we're going to go to the third tab of the inspector, and then we can make some changes to the color. So for example, if I don't want it to be white, then I can change it to blue, and it looks kind of bad, so I'm just going to go Command Z to undo it. And what we want to do right now is to change the tab that you have not been clicked. So just now I'm only changing the tab that is currently active. I change it to the blue color, but this time I want to change it so that the inactive tab has a different color. So I'm just going to go to the inspector, and there will be a drop down menu here that says active, and you can choose inactive in here. So right away you see everything become black, and you're currently doing the settings for the tab that you're not clicking on. So let me just quickly choose a color. I'm going to use the droplet to choose the color from the top here. I think this is only a Mac only function. I don't think Windows user has it, but anyways. So if I click away right now, you will notice that the inactive tab is now brown, which is matching the overall theme a little bit better. And then if I go to browse mode, and there's also one thing you might notice. If I hover over the inactive tab, it will become black, and I want to change the hover color as well. So I'm going to go back to layout mode, click onto it, and then choose hover. And then maybe for hovering, I'm going to give it a reddish brown color like this. Click away, go back to browse mode, Control B, and you'll notice right now I have changed the hover color as well. And this is basically the first part of this tutorial. And in the next part of the tutorial, what we want to do is something like this. Now, if we recap on what we said earlier in the tutorial, in the start, we want to create something that when nothing is being ticked, it shows a warning sign on the top of the tab panel, so that you have some sort of a dashboard-like feature that you can easily spot out potential problem with the data. It's similarly on the contact phone number. If you delete any one of the phone, then it will also give you a warning until you type in something else in here. So this is what we're going to be working on the second part of this tutorial. And to do what we set out to achieve, we have 2 steps that we need to complete. Now the first step is to create a calculation field that detects if these are being checked or not. So that's the first step. And once we have that down, the next question is how you can apply those calculation field into the top of the tab here. So let's start with the first part. To create a calculation field, go to File, Manage, Database, and we have a very our current settings is very simple. We only have first name, last name, photo, interest, remark, and the 3 phones. So we want to create a calculation field. Let's call it detect underscore interest. So now I have this field created. Let's change this to a calculation field instead. Press change, click OK, and we are onto this page here. Now I want to introduce you to a function that you will be using a lot if you are like diving deeper into FileMaker. This is called the if function. So like right now it looks very messy, just like that, but let me just quickly modify this a little bit. So essentially the if function is a 3-part thing. This is the first part, this is the second part, and this is the third part. And what the if function do is to allows you to create a mathematical test, and then if the test pass, then it shows a result indicated in here. If it doesn't pass, it shows the result on the third space here. So the first space here, we want to create the test. So I think if I just write it down in plain words, so I want to test in here, test if the field interest, if the field interest is empty or not. Okay, this is not the actual code. I just tried to put it here so that it's easier for you to understand. And the second part here, it's the if the test, so in this part here, if the test is true, I mean the test answer is true, then do this. Okay, let me split them into 3 lines like this. And the third part here, if the test is not true, do this. So we need to complete these 3 components of the if function to get it to work. So now let's do the proper coding. What we want to do in the first part is to set up the tests. So there is another function that we will be using. It's called isEmpty. And this isEmpty function is a native FileMaker function that allows you to check if a specific field is empty or not. So we are going to place the interest inside this isEmpty function, and if the answer is true, which is here, then we want this to show a warning sign. So let's do a warning and then exclamation mark. Remember to add 2 quotes on the left and the right here, so to indicate to FileMaker that you are referring to a text. And if the case is that they have something in there, so if isEmpty is not true, then we want to show nothing. Or let's just do empty is not true, so it's easier for you to see later on when we test this. So this is the first part of this whole thing. We want to set the calculation result as text because these two, the results are text-based, it's not number-based. So if we choose number, there will be some problem with it. So I'm just going to click OK now. Click OK. And let me just quickly place that calculation field into here so that you can see the effect first. I'm going to go to View, Layout Mode, and then let's go to Field Picker, and then pick out the Detect Interest calculation field that we just created. Okay, so this is the field that we just created. Doesn't look too tidy now, but it's okay. Click View, Browse Mode to go back to original mode. Now you see that when I when I have one of them ticked in, empty is not true. If I uncheck this and everything is empty, our field now changes to warning. So you can see if I uncheck only one of the three, then it's still showing empty is not true. And so this is the first part that we want to do. And the next question is, how do I place this text on top into the tab page here? I'm going to go back to layout mode. And let's delete this for the second. Double click onto the interest tab, and you will notice that when I click onto interest, the tab here, there will be a specify option here. If I click onto the specify, we are now into another calculation. So that means that FileMaker allows us to dynamically change the tab name based on the calculation. So what we want to do is that let's try something very primitive and lousy, but it will work. So let's do interest and detect interest. So this is referring back to the calculation field that we just created, and we're not going to do any like modifications to this right now. Then let's see what happens. Click OK, and remember this is a little bit weird for the tab control. When you do the settings here, click rename so that the change applied to the tab here, and click OK. And now you will notice the tab here is showing instead of interest, it shows a calculation. So basically that means that the value is ever changing. We're going to go to browse mode to test this right now. Okay, so interest warning because we have nothing here. And if we tick on something here, interest empty is not true. Okay, so at least it doesn't look too good, but at least we have this first step being created. And for the next part, what we want to do is to maybe fine tune this a little bit and maybe give it a space in between interest and the warning, and also change the color to red color so it gives more like a warning feeling instead of right now it's kind of blending into the title here. So let's start with the easier thing first. We are going to go to File, Manage Database again. Double click onto the detect interest calculation field that we just created. Click onto this, and the first thing I want to do is that maybe I don't want to show anything if this empty test is not true. So I'm just going to remove this whole thing, and remember to leave the two quotes here so that FileMaker knows that you want to show nothing. And this is the first step. Quickly test that. So if there's a tick, then it's normal, it's looking normal, but if there's no tick, then there's the warning. Okay, let's go back to manage database, and the next thing we want to do is to make it so that the warning sign is in red color. So I want to introduce another field to you. So this field is called let's make some space, it's called text color. Now this is the text color field, and if you look at this, there's actually two parts to it. The first, the text that you want to show, and the second part is the color that you want to show. It's in RGB settings, so that everything is it's under a 255, 255, and 255. So if you red, green, and blue is all 255, you will have white color. And this time we want the color to be red, so that I'm going to if we do Control Z and look at the original parameter, the first one is about red and the other one is green and blue. So I want to make the other ones 0 and 0, and this one max value 255. And the second thing we want to do is that we want to copy this warning, Control copy, and then paste it onto the text here. So now this is going to show warning in red color. And let me just quickly organize this a little bit. And it might look a little bit more complex, but we are still essentially doing the same thing. So we're still within the if function here. It starts here and ends here. And the first parameter is a test to see if interest is empty. The second parameter is what happens if this test comes out as true. And the third part here is what happens if this test comes out as false. In that case, we show nothing in here at all. So click OK again, and you'll notice that interest warning is now showing in red. And if we click onto the other thing, it disappear and appear based on the field data. And maybe the little quick change to add a quote beside the warning. Double click onto this. Within the quote, add a quotation here, and then give a space before the whole thing, so that there's a space bar here. Click OK again, and now everything looks quite good. And we can easily see that one of the interest field is not being filled with anything. Okay, now that this is done, I want to continue this tutorial by upping the difficulty a little bit. So right now we are only looking at one field, the interest field. It's the same field but using a checkbox to take different values. But what we want to do on the phone tab is that we have 3 numbers. So what we want is that if any of these, any one of these 3 phone number is empty, then I want to show the warning sign. So it doesn't matter if I have work and home being placed. If mobile is empty, it shows warning. If work is empty, it shows warning. If home is empty, it shows warning. So how do we do that? So let's just quickly click onto manage database first. And obviously the first step, we want to create another detection calculation. Let's just be lazy and click this, duplicate this, and double click onto it. And then, oh, actually, after you duplicate, change the name so that it doesn't mess you up. And let's call this detect phone. Change. And we are now essentially at where we were at just now. We have 3 parts to this calculation. First part is the test. Second part is the answer, if it's true. The third part is the answer if it's false. So what we want to do is that we don't really need to change the answer here, because the warning is going to be similar. It's still going to be red, and if there's nothing, it's empty. Then we still want to show nothing in here. So in this case, we want to focus on here, which is the test. In this time, instead of us looking at only the interest field like this, we want to look at 3 fields: the mobile phone, the work phone, and the home phone. So how do we do that? Now obviously let's switch in a mobile phone in here. So that's how we do the mobile phone part. And what I want to share with you is to use the OR. It's pretty simple, just OR. Then you can add an other is empty test in here. Let's place work phone here, and then let's add another one here, and place the home phone. So if I organize this a little bit, it's basically like this. If mobile phone is empty, or if work phone is empty, or if home phone is empty, then it will trigger this result. Otherwise, it will be empty for everything. So it's very simple, and this OR is going to be very useful if you're going to be doing a calculation in FileMaker. So let's just quickly click OK. Click OK again and see what happens to the phone. And nothing happens. You know why? Because I forget to put the tab name with the calculation. So let's just quickly go to layout mode. And then we're going to click onto phone. And then we are going to do it just like we did just now. Click onto phone, specified, and and then detect phone here. So phone and the field name. Click OK. Click OK again. And then we are going to go to browse mode. It's still not working. Hold on. Let's do control layout mode. Okay, so this is like the mistakes that I just asked you, because I forget to press the rename, and that's the issue why it doesn't show up. So click onto phone specified, do everything I did again, click OK, and remember this is not submitted yet. Click rename and then click OK. It's now done. It's now calculation and calculation for both of them. Click onto view, browse mode, and we have a very nice phone detector here, and also a work detector here, and interest like this. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to give a quick shout out to my subscriber there. We just hit 200 subscribers and it was very fast. It all happens in like less than a month, and I'm really grateful for all the comments and all the support and all the messages that you sent me. And I want to make sure that this channel provides great content, so let me know in the comments if you feel like you want me to improve something, then I really appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel is all about creating beginner-friendly FileMaker tutorials so that you can start using this powerful software to automate your work. And we're going to post regularly on each Friday, so if you don't want to miss out, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.